This is a WKYT podcast.
Good morning from WKYT News. We welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. I'm Bill Bryant. Later, we will hear from Vince Gabbert at Keeneland about a major expansion coming to southern Kentucky. An exciting announcement, but they're also dealing with a legal ruling that we'll also talk about. First, the pandemic has led to major changes in the college experience since the spring and lots of caution as the fall semester approached. Now that colleges are back in session, some students are on campus facing new kinds of challenges, and many are learning online. Dr. Thompson is the president of the Council on Postsecondary Education, which is charged with the task of holding high standards for higher learning here in the Commonwealth. And he's joining us to give us an update. And Dr. Thompson, we really appreciate you joining us.
Good to be with you, Bill.
For the most part, so far, as we observe things anyway, so good. You know, as higher education has been able to keep going, at least this deep into the semester. Are you encouraged by what you're seeing and the reports you're getting from campuses?
You know, I really am. When we went through the summer planning every week to be fully open in the fall, and what I mean by fully open, it doesn't mean that we're doing fully face-to-face. We have a system set up for part hybrid blending learning, pure online learning, and then some face-to-face. And we really prepared for it in every which way we know how to make sure that students stayed safe within our walls, if you will. They are young adults, so they do go out. But also making sure that we continue with the academic experience that gets them the credential or degree they need to be successful in this economy. I'm very pleased with how well our campuses, our presidents, provosts, and other student support folk have really worked to make sure that this is happening.
Do you feel, Dr. Thompson, that students can keep the learning momentum that they had in their college careers going in a very challenging time like this?
You know, yes is the quick answer to that, with a lot of caveats. Bill, what we know is that many of our students are still first generation. Many of our students are coming from a place where higher education is still very much a goal of theirs, but maybe not have the kind of experience that warranted them knowing how to really maneuver that. In this challenging time, the kind of student support and academic supports that they need, we have to be innovative to get it to them. So it is hard, because learning is more than just what you're conducting in the classroom. It's all of those things that happen outside the classroom, which equals at least, or maybe even exceeds the need for learning to take place. And that's what's hard, is to making sure that they stay engaged, and stay engaged safely, obviously, at the level they need to continue all of their learning. Because college is more than just the classroom experience. It's really getting ready for life.
Well, in such a formative time, and that is why so many of them want to be on campus, is to make new friends and have new experiences, and that has been the challenge that has been so tough with COVID-19, with the distancing and all of that going on. So you're saying, from the indications you get, students are overcoming the hurdles somewhat.
Oh, they are. I have a student advisory group that I put around me to just get the words from the horse's mouth, if you will. And that's what they're telling me. They are telling me that faculty are engaging them. They are getting the needs met in many levels, but they're also telling me it's a struggle at times. We know that mental health is an issue that was happening before COVID, and it's a bigger issue now. How are we providing the telehealth that they need in that area? So they are saying there's struggles there. The biggest struggles I'm hearing is truly not being able to fully have the experience of that co-curricular piece. In other words, you know, they do want to gather. They do want to make new friends. They do want to, you know, in many cases, not all students are traditional students. We have adult learners too, but for the traditional students, they're ready to get out and explore items that weren't in their home place, if you will. So that's the struggle we're hearing from students, is that they are really feeling hindered from having the kind of gatherings that they really would like to have.
And yet the virus has dictated many things. We know that UK has had its challenges, more than 2,000 cases of COVID on campus. We know UPike, which is private, had to put students on lockdown who were on campus. So it has been difficult in that you take those steps forward and then have to take a step back on occasion.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. UK is testing a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So we're capturing those students and we're putting them in quarantine. We're actually helping to control as much as we can. However, when you bring these many students back to a city the size of Lexington, it has an impact, both positive and negative. It has a great big economic impact. UK is a big business. But it also has the impact as far as the amount of cases, no doubt. Mm-hmm. But I'm very proud that UK and what the folk are doing there to control the spread is absolutely great. I believe that UPike and other schools, what you have here, Bill, once again, are a lot of young people that are coming in from the outside, and then once they get in, they go back outside. So it is hard. We don't have the kind of walls to contain that maybe P12 does. Yeah. But yes, it is a place, but we're not even close to what's going on in places like Michigan, North Carolina, and other places. So I think the governor's guidance, I think the guidance we're getting from CDC, Dr. Stack here in the state, has really helped us to do the items that we need to do to keep students safe, but yet continue the academic endeavor.
Yeah. We understand that some of our institutions were pleasantly surprised that enrollment actually was stronger than what they had feared in this pandemic situation. Do you agree with that at most of our institutions?
Oh, I'm ecstatic considering, because we were planning on a much larger fall. A much larger drop in enrollment. And what has happened is our public institutions were only down less than 1%. If you consider our independent colleges, they're up 3.5%. Where we are seeing a downward trend is with our community and technical colleges. But please remember, these students more often than not are low-income students that are coming into college for the first time. And this is somewhat concerning. We have to look at. But we also know, if you look at the trend analysis, there tends to be, when there's an economic downturn, with whatever the causes that happen to make it happen, we'll see about 6 months from now an upward trend in that enrollment. But, we are very happy, if you will, of these numbers. And we still don't have all of our dual credit numbers in yet. So enrollment should actually go up a little more.
How much of this is with us for good in terms of the pivot to online learning, the recognition that it works fine in some classes and is very convenient for some students? As you said, some of the student life activities are certainly missing from that. But do you anticipate online learning becoming a larger part of the landscape going forward?
No doubt about it. We're not even having that conversation anymore. We're trying to create more innovation currently with the knowledge that the future is this in many ways. You have to remember that, once again, let's go back to the original conversation we were having a few minutes ago, that, it doesn't mean that we don't have residential campuses. They will probably expand, because students come in these settings to build another home, to build another community. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll have to take those classes face-to-face. They can do it in a variety of ways. And what we need to do now is to look at making sure that the quality is there for both the blended hybrid learning as well as for the online learning and face-to-face. That doesn't mean that we're going to forget that. So no, it is with us. Now, the interesting piece is, how then do we foster a way for students to get the support they need in this environment? We're going to have to be innovative in creating a process that isn't face-to-face, that allows students to really grow, socially, emotionally, culturally, as well as academically.
Dr. Thompson, your own story, very inspiring to many. You have told us you grew up poor in eastern Kentucky and made your way to college, and it made a huge difference in your life. In this time of renewed awareness about social justice and equality issues in America, what kind of role is Kentucky higher education playing in giving students some perspective and, as well as to the service regions?
I appreciate you asking this, Bill, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that during this time of unrest, I do reflect on my life growing up in a segregated community, growing up in a place where we were fighting for civil rights and human rights and justice every day, that we have to remember that we have to continue to come together, all of us, no matter where we're coming from, Democrats, Republicans, Black, whites, and understand that if we don't have justice across all these institutions, criminal justice, educational justice, all of those, we are leaving ourselves behind as a human race. So the idea, it's not about, by the way, I believe in police reform, but I believe in police. I believe in us actually getting to a place where we can have civil conversations that's nonviolent. But I also know that we still have what I consider to be inequitable institutional processes in place. And education is a place we have to start because that's the direct correlation. Coming from Clay County, Kentucky, and the son of an illiterate coal miner, and now the head of higher education, I know the value of education and how it changes the trajectory of a human life. So we're not going to get any place by focusing on one piece of reform. We're going to holistically have to work to do all reform. And education is the place to start. Higher education is that closest item that we have to making sure that people have the kind of life that changes for themselves as well as their children. So we have to be on the forefront of doing what we need to do to create justice. And in the case we're talking about, equitable education that's high quality, that can be recognized by those that are going to hire students. So we are here and want to be here.
We just have a few seconds left, and we'll try to have you back before the legislative session. But as you know, the legislature only passed that one-year budget last year, and so they'll be back in 2021. Do you have concerns about funding for higher ed going forward?
Well, we've been asked to take a 8% scenario budget cut to be ready for a cut that could come up this fall or this coming spring. Yeah. We are worried. I mean, the pandemic cost us about $144 million the last fiscal year. I'm not sure what it's going to cost us this year. And higher education, once again, we've been trying to keep it affordable, had the lowest tuition increase in almost 3 decades at 0.7. But we are in a place whereby we have to have funding to keep us going at the level to provide this state with the economy that it's going to have. The workforce is that direct correlation to that. So how we think about funding and how we're thinking about cuts, I would ask the legislature, the governor's office, and those in the public even to support the idea that higher education is that direct pipeline. Yes, I am concerned. I don't know how we keep taking more cuts.
Dr. Aaron Thompson is the president of the Council on Postsecondary Education. Thank you for taking a few minutes to speak with us. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Bill. I hope you have a great day.
You as well. And we hope you'll stay here on Kentucky Newsmakers. We'll come back. We'll talk about Keeneland, their plans in southeastern Kentucky, and for the fall meet in Lexington. Welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers from WKYT. It's quite the understatement to say that horses are big here in Kentucky. It's safe to say that we've missed out on live racing this year because of the pandemic. But in southern Kentucky, there's never been an opportunity to see races live in a normal season. That's expected to change soon. Keeneland and Kentucky Downs are teaming up to open up a new track in Corbin, along with another facility in Williamsburg. It's all awaiting approval from regulators right now. And we're joined today by Vince Gabbert with Keeneland, and we'll talk about what led up to this announcement that was made this week. Thank you, Vince, for being with us.
Thanks, Bill, for having me.
And before we get to that, there has come since your announcement a ruling from the state Supreme Court on parimutuel wagering that seems to bring into question some of the things that you're doing now and going forward. Does this impact your plans?
It does, at least temporarily. The decision that came out from the Supreme Court this week was quite a surprise, honestly, from what we expected. Luckily, the machines in question and the way that the case was framed is a little bit more narrow. So the machines that were part of that controversy are only at a few of the racetracks across the state. But it's definitely something that impacts us. Historical racing has been a tremendous economic boost, creating a tremendous amount of jobs, a lot of money for the general fund for the state, not to mention what it's done to purses and what it's created from a racing circuit standpoint. You've got, in the last 5 years, over $750 million of investment from the racetracks alone in these new facilities. And it would impact our plans in Southeast Kentucky. Our hope is that we get the language that we need from a statutory change to shore up everything that was mentioned in that opinion from the Supreme Court. But we're so excited about what this means for Southeast Kentucky and moving forward down there.
Given where you are with the court ruling, you'll be asking then the state legislature to clarify things and clear this up and let you move forward cleanly.
Yeah, we absolutely will. We've been very fortunate to be good partners with the legislature on a number of issues, really for decades. And this is no different. I think that they understand the importance of the horse industry. And this is no different than, from an undermining standpoint, what's happened to coal in the recent years, what could happen to the auto industry, the manufacturing businesses here in the state. So it's no different from an impact and an overall impact to the entire state.
Let's talk about what you have planned in southeastern Kentucky, the proposed facilities there. You've been some years in getting to this point, but what do you want to see happen?
Well, it has been several years, and we've been so fortunate. The folks in Corbin and Williamsburg have been great to work with and very patient as we work through these plans and try to figure out what was next. But essentially, we'll have a standard bred facility that will feed in to the Red Mile meet in the summer that we plan there in Corbin, just off the bypass, and then related facilities with historical racing machines, but restaurant and entertainment and those sorts of things, that venue there right off the exit near the water park at Williamsburg. So in our goal and to try to, continue this amount of investment that we have across the state, but also be great community partners. We want to, the historical racing has given us that opportunity for the racing business, and we think it's time to extend that hospitality and that benefit to Southeast Kentucky.
What do you see there in terms of opportunity? Does that open you up to the Knoxville market and even places farther south?
It does, actually. The biggest draw would be from that Knoxville market. As we've seen with the facilities in West Kentucky, about 70 to 75% of their customer base is coming from Tennessee. And so we feel like this is an opportunity to bring some of that Tennessee dollars and put them in Kentucky and create, through that corridor. I mean, you've got such rich history in Williamsburg and Corbin and what it means for the local people down there. And we want to find a way to draw some of the out-of-state money, even as far as Chattanooga, for people to be able to come up. It's an easy drive up I-75 and spend some of their discretionary money in Kentucky. Who
is your market when you try to identify who will come to these facilities that are proposed?
Yeah, it's really everybody, Bill. As we've seen with some of these other facilities, they kind of appeal to everyone, whether it's the live racing or the simulcasting or the machines themselves or the restaurants. I mean, there's plenty of people that are coming to these facilities for the food. We have plans for hotels on the sites as well. It's truly entertainment destinations, and we want to provide that entertainment and get people here.
And you're talking about jobs for the state and certainly for that region, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Between the two facilities, we're looking at close to 200 jobs at all levels: hospitality, culinary. We want to tie in and be good partners with the University of the Cumberlands, with the technical schools down there. There's a number of technology jobs that are tied with these as well, because of the amount of technology that goes into these facilities. So, we feel like it would be a huge positive impact for the region.
All right, and can you give us a time frame down there?
Yeah, so the goal, we've already made the application. So that's one hurdle that we've overcome that we've never done before. We've actually made the application. By statute, the Racing Commission has to award dates by November 1st, which is typical time frame. So, assuming that we get the license from the Racing Commission, then we would be continue with our engineering and planning phases and hopefully ready to start breaking ground in the spring.
Vince, what a year this has been, certainly, and so anybody trying to move ahead with anything has challenges, but for Keeneland, there are no fans at the spring meet, and now here we're coming upon the fall meet, and it'll be the same thing. I know you miss your fans as they miss horse racing, but still, you do plan a nice event, right?
We do, and it's when we ran in July. I think as much as you get exhausted and tired from a day of racing in July, not having any fans here, I underestimated how much energy I get individually from having people here and putting on a great show. And it's tough. It's tough on everybody, but we're going to do everything we can to bring Keeneland to people. We've got Keeneland at home packages and through our gift shop and things on social media, watch parties. And of course, you can always watch and wager on the races from your phone or home. And we want to encourage people to do that. That engagement is such an important part of what we offer. And regardless of where people are, we want to continue to engage our fans. And
the Breeders' Cup will be the same way in that it is a major world-class event that will be right here in Lexington, and yet no fans allowed this time. Although you tell us there still will be, a couple of thousand people involved?
Yeah, so with the horsemen, the owners, and the central personnel, we'll have a couple thousand here. But a lot of people, we've heard from a lot of owners that people that are affiliated with the event that may not have a horse in, but they're still coming to town. They want to come and experience Central Kentucky and what it has to offer that time of year. And it is the World Championship. The Breeders' Cup's the two biggest days of racing that our sport has, and we're blessed to be able to host it again. Be a far cry from the 95,000 that we had in 2015 over the 2 days 5 years ago. And we're fortunate to be able to host again in 2022 so that we can continue to be able to partner with the community and inject that economic development into the area.
As you've experimented with ways to use your venue, and of course we know there's the Keeneland Entertainment Center that always has events through the years, but also there was to have been the second annual Railbird Music Festival. That didn't happen. I know that was a disappointment, and I'm sure you're already planning for next year.
We are, and we had such a great lineup for this year, and building off the success with a few small tweaks here and there on the things that we were planning for this time. But a number of the acts have held intact, so we've kind of extended that to next year to be able to provide a same or similar lineup to what we were proposing, and we're really excited about bringing it back next August.
You feel good about horse racing right now, given all that's happening in the world?
I do, Bill. It's, we're coming out of our September sale. Today's the last day of a 2-week sale. The market is held together substantially well, given everything that we've gone through. From a wagering standpoint and from a product standpoint, we've probably gotten better. Horse racing is one of the few things that were going on really from the shutdown on. And luckily, we've seemed to maintain a lot of that market share for people that are watching and wagering on races and what it means. Our entries are looking strong for October. We've got a great stakes lineup for next weekend for October. But that sales market is really the barometer. And even in these times, as much uncertainty as there is, the fact that we've been able to hold that market as strong as we have is a great indicator for our future.
Vince Gabbert from Keeneland, thank you so much for giving us some time and updating us on some big plans for the park in the track. Appreciate you very much.
Yes, sir.
Stay with us here on WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers, and we'll hear from Greta Van Susteren in just a moment. Welcome back to WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. Of course, the Supreme Court vacancy is in the news right now as we're in the middle of Campaign 2020, and Greta Van Susteren has a look.
Hello, I'm Greta Van Susteren, and here is your Full Court Fast Break. I'm sure you've heard of the expression, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Well, that's what Democrats are thinking as they talk up court packing. If Vice President Biden wins the White House, some Democratic senators are threatening to expand the Supreme Court, adding more justices to the current 9 until they have a majority of appointments. Changing the political makeup of the court would no doubt influence decisions which impacts the nation. The Constitution says nothing about how many justices must be on the court, and that number has fluctuated over history. At one time, way back in time, there were 10 justices on the court, but in 1869, Congress passed a law saying the number should be 9. In the 1930s, President Roosevelt tried to get Congress to expand the court, but that went over like a lead balloon, and the number remains at 9. This election season, during the primaries, 11 Democrats running said they would consider court packing. Vice President Biden was not one of them. If Democrats do take the Senate and pass new legislation expanding the court, would a President Biden change his mind and sign that into law? Your guess is as good as mine. But here's what we do know. President Trump is narrowing his choice to replace liberal, very liberal Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg with a conservative, most anticipate very conservative justice, and likewise a woman. Presidents want to choose someone leaning their way politically and young enough so the justice will have decades of impact on the Supreme Court, since Supreme Court justices have lifetime appointments. This Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern, President Trump will name his nominee, and Sunday, Full Court Press will cover the story from every angle, bringing politics home, covering the national stories that impact you.
Obviously, we have that update as we're airing this program now, and so you can catch Full Court Press with Greta Van Susteren. It's coming up this morning at 11:30 on WKYT. Well, that's Kentucky Newsmakers. We want to thank you for joining us, and I'll see you bright and early this week on WKYT This Morning. We start bright and early at 4:30. Also on WKYT Mid-Morning at 10 and WKYT News at noon. You make it a good week ahead.